we've got this document called the Chromebook Student Manual, and the link there, that is something that you can share with students and families. They don't have to be logged in to a district account to access this resource. And I'll show you what the document looks like in a moment. But what I wanted to call out is right at the top of the document is this troubleshooting shortlist. And the four things that are listed there, if students are doing this regularly, um, you will eliminate most of the problems that we seem to run into. So probably you've had a chance to reach out to a tech coach because a student's been having a problem, and we're not being dismissive when we say, hey, have they cleared the cache? It's just a reminder, because we all need that reminder. Sometimes I'll complain about a problem and one of my colleagues will say, when was the last time you cleared the cache? And you say, oh, yeah, and it seems to fix things. So that's a good thing to share with students. Anytime there's a problem, you can first ask the students, have you cleared the cache? Have you restarted the Chromebook? I know some teachers that will, on Mondays during the morning meeting, they do this together. They clear the cache. So that's great, and hopefully the kids are actually doing it. If you take the time to kind of do that together, hopefully everyone is doing it at once. I made a joke in our earlier session about how you wouldn't want them to also restart their Chromebook because they would then be disconnected from Zoom. However, you could end a Zoom meeting with your students saying, okay, it's Monday, we're going to also restart our Chromebooks. And the reason restarting the Chromebook is important is it will apply any available updates, and also it just kind of refreshes things, just like rebooting our computers can often solve some problems. Let me really quickly show you. Here's that document, and you'll notice at the top is this table of contents, and these are links. So if you find the topic, the thing you're looking for, like how do I update Chrome, and you click on that, it'll take you right to that section of the document. This document is very short by design. It's meant to just be a really quick reference, and often it attempts to just answer with the simplest set of directions if possible. So for example, how do you take a screenshot? We'll get into this, but it talks about some keyboard shortcuts, but there are often links. And when you click on the links, it will take you to another resource. Nearly all of the resources that this document is directing you to are resources that we've developed. So it really is addressing problems and tasks that we know our students need. So this took me to our Edmonds or ESD Learning Resources page. We often call it the Family Resource Site. And this is something that you can also share with families, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, so let me go back to my slide here. So I've got these common tasks that I wanted to talk a little bit about. And I'm going to switch over. I've got a Chromebook here, so I'm going to switch over to the Chromebook in just a second. But the first one is how do you put two window applications side by side? So sometimes we're asking students to read a passage and answer some questions, or maybe they're doing some research, right? And it makes sense to have a notes document or like a worksheet or something, and then a website that they're reading from. However, I do want to mention the Chromebook screens are smaller than ours. And even though the kids have younger eyes and maybe it's not as much of a problem, it's often not really optimal. I know sometimes teachers want to have the students have Zoom on one side and a web page on the other. You'll just have to find out from your students if it's a problem for them to see. For example, if you were doing a Pear Deck thing. So you'll just have to ask the students for feedback, or even have them share their screen to get an idea of what that looks like. But let me show you putting two windows side by side. I'm going to click on this link real quick, and it will take me to this page, and then I'll hop over to my Chromebook to show the rest. Oh my goodness, it's really thinking about it. Never mind. I'm gonna switch over to the Chromebook just a second here. Okay, let me share my
Well,
screen from the Chromebook.
well,
Yeah,
Brian
James,
does
go ahead,
that.
man.
I'll say
Please.
too, one other thing. I often point this out to teachers. I think students have the option as well. If you're screen sharing or if someone's screen sharing in Zoom, if you go to view options at the top of your screen, there is you can zoom in a little bit more usually. So often it's set fit to window. You could make it 100% size or larger, and often it will follow the person's cursor. So that's another kind of thing that might be helpful in case students are having trouble seeing because of screen size.
Okay, thank you. That's a really good suggestion. Yeah. In fact, that's some of these things that we might teach the students. They're learning a life skill, right? Like holding Control plus on most browsers, that works. You can zoom in or Control minus to zoom out. So some of these things work on any computer. Okay, so right now I'm looking at Zoom. If I press and hold Alt, so I often am exaggerated when I'm doing this with kids. I like show them I'm going to use one hand, and so I'm pressing holding Alt, and then with my other finger I'm going to press the brackets key. So that's to the left of the letter P. So I could do the left bracket. And when I do, whoops, maybe I got to be, there we go. When I do that, it moved the one window to the left. And now I could say, I've got this like note taking thing here. Okay. And then if I do Alt and the right bracket, it puts it on the right. And now side by side, I've got those two applications, right? Pretty handy. Sometimes it's really small. So I mentioned the other thing, which is sometimes it doesn't make sense for them to have two applications side by side. Maybe they just want to flip from, say, Zoom to a website you've shared with them, right? Especially if you've done a Pear Deck with students, for example. Like the first time, if you share a link with the kids in chat and they click on that link, they might be surprised the first time they've done this, especially if it's younger students. They click on that link and all of a sudden you disappeared. They're looking at their browser, they're looking at a brand new web page, right? And so the first time kids experience that, they might have trouble getting back to Zoom. You can have them use Alt Tab. And I love teaching kids about Alt Tab because that works on any computer, right? Works on Windows, works on a Mac. So again, I'm always really exaggerated when I show the kids, but I'll say, I'm going to take my thumb and press and hold Alt. And then there's that Tab key on the left side. I'm going to tap on that. So I'll do that on the Chromebook. And it looks very similar to Windows, right? I'm switching between my different applications. One thing I'll mention, if I switch back to the browser here, when I switch over to that, you can see it's still kind of off to the side, right? So I could simply just hover over the edge and drag it to make it full size. But now I can Alt Tab between that and say Zoom. I don't know if you can tell I'm back in Zoom, but anyway, I can use it to switch between those applications. So that's really helpful, especially if kids get confused about why you've suddenly disappeared. You can have them do Alt Tab, right? The next thing I wanted to show you is how to find and launch applications. So it's very similar to Windows, okay? On our Windows computer, in the bottom left corner, there's that little Windows icon. And there's also a button, a dedicated button with the Windows icon. And when you press that, it launches a box that'll show available applications. But when you press the Windows icon, you can just begin typing the thing you're searching for. It's the same on the Chromebook. In the bottom right corner, you can see this little circle thing here. If I click on that, the bottom left corner, it opens the search. Right now, you can see recently used applications, the Files application, Google Drive, etc. Or I'm not even going to click in the search box. I can just start typing. And if I just start typing the word, it'll present an option that is closely related and I can hit enter. By the way, just like on Windows, it will also search for documents, recently used documents. So again, good to know. But there's a dedicated key. Now, we won't see it on our computer. We got a dedicated Windows key. For the kids, they don't have a caps lock. So on the left side, right above Shift, is a little magnifying glass. If I press on that, it also launches the search. So I really like showing students this because it can be really reassuring to them to know that they can type to find something, but also see the little caret right here. If I click on this, or chevron, if I click on that, it opens this pane in a wider view. And now I can scroll through, or maybe I can't scroll. No, I can't scroll. All right, let me try that again. I have these dots, so I can click on these dots to view different applications. And I think it's arranging them based on frequency of use. I'm not too sure here. It's certainly not in alphabetical order, is it? I'm not quite sure how it's organized. But anyway, they can search through. And that can be helpful too for students to discover things. One reason you might want to use that, if students for the very first time are using the camera on their Chromebook to say, take a picture of some work, maybe they've never used the camera before, though I'd be shocked if the kids didn't discover that on their own, right? But if they haven't found it, they could press the search key and they just type the word camera. And gosh, actually, I just type in the letter C and I can see it right there. I can click and launch the camera app. Okay, do you see me? That's funny. Yeah. Okay, so any questions about those so far? We're good. Okay. Let's talk about taking a screenshot. Especially with Amplify Science, kids might sometimes have a need to take a picture of something on their screen. Maybe there's some data, or maybe they ran a digital model and they want to document what they or their partners were doing. So just like on the Windows computer, we have that snipping tool. On the Chromebook, there is a built-in tool for taking screenshots, or just a screen clipping, meaning just a portion of the screen. So I'm back on that document, the Chromebook Student Manual, and there's a section that says take a screenshot. There's some specialized keys that you would use, and actually let me see if I can switch over to that real quick. So here's, okay. This is okay. This is where I wanted to go anyway. I mentioned that family resource site. There is a section that's just devoted to Chromebook support. Notice it says Chromebook support and tools. So this page right here would just be like if kids are having trouble, you could send them to that page to find some troubleshooting steps to figure out what to do, or where they could go to get more help. The two on the left here are more about using the Chromebook. So again, these are great resources that you could share with your students, that you can share with families. This middle one, Chromebook use and tools, these are going to be the most common things that kids are doing with the Chromebook. This one on the far right side, it's a little nerdy. It's probably more appropriate for older students. It's keyboard shortcuts. I find that older students often really like knowing keyboard shortcuts, how to very quickly do something, right? Once they're comfortable using the computer, they like to know how to do things quickly. Anyway, I'm going to show you real quick on the Chromebook use and tools. There is a section where it is taking a screenshot. I should have looked. Let's see here. Taking a screenshot. Here we go. Okay, here's why I wanted to show you. On this page, what's kind of handy is, oh my gosh, now it's not scrolling. Oh, here we go. Okay, so if I click on the keyboard shortcuts, it'll take me to a page that has a keyboard, and it shows the kids where the buttons are. That's all. This is not a big deal. Anyway, that can be helpful because, of course, the layout on our computer is different, right? So having the keyboard showing the kids where those buttons are that they would click will be helpful, but it's also really helpful to have kids model stuff, right? So you can always call on a student volunteer to model something for their peers, and it's also easier for them to describe what they're doing because you, of course, have a different keyboard. So when I am teaching the kids how to do a screenshot, what I'll tell them is, okay, to take a full screenshot, you're going to press and hold the control key. And then if you look above the number 6, there's this key. It's called the multi-page key. So we don't have it on ours, but if I press the multi-page key, you can see there's a little pop-up that indicates, oh, I just took a screenshot, right? Using, taking a partial screenshot or a screen clipping is similar. Instead, they use 2 fingers, press and hold Control Shift, and then the multi-page key. So when I do that, it's teeny tiny, but there's a little plus sign. And similar to on Windows, if I click and hold and drag, kind of highlights an area, and then when I let go, it takes a screenshot. And if I'm modeling it for students, again, I'm really animated. I make a big deal about 2 fingers, press this, and then when I let go, so especially for younger students, it's helpful, right? But where did those things go, right? I just took 2 screenshots, and this is a nightmare. Helping kids, especially younger students, find the stuff they just did. Where did it go? That's where the Files app comes in. Okay. So in Windows, we have that file browser. Um, do they call it File Explorer? Is that what they call it? Yeah. Um, on the Chromebook, a Files app. Okay. And so I like to, again, just do the find key first to find files. So I'll press the find key, I'll type in the word files. And when I hit enter, actually, I already had it open. So it just switched me right to that view. It doesn't look like much. Okay. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Oh, I can. Hey, all right. So I zoomed in a little bit. Check it out. Right now, I'm looking at my files. This is a little bit confusing. What they mean is this stuff that's saved directly on the Chromebook. Okay. This is where it gets confusing when you take screenshots. I have found that sometimes, most of the time, it saves the screenshots to the kids' Google Drive. Great, no problem. The kids get that. But sometimes, for whatever reason, it saves it to the Chromebook itself. And that can get a little tricky for students to find. So what I usually do once the kids take a screenshot is I say this, hey, we just took a screenshot. Let's go to files and let's go right up here to recent, right? Because I recently did this thing. And so if I go to recent, it'll take a minute to kind of sort through the list of files that I have, but it should list those two at the top, right? So knowing that the kids can go to recent, that's a helpful way to do it. And the other one, I won't click on it because I'm going to let this load. The other one that they can also do is images, right? Because that was an image file. So I clicked on recent and you can see it put the folders at the top. So those must be some folders I worked on recently. But here's that one screenshot I did. If I double click on that, it should open it. And there we go. There was that partial screenshot. So once I've had the students find the file, then I'll tell them, hey, let's put it in a folder. Let's organize our stuff, right? And again, it takes a little extra time to teach the kids how to do that stuff, but these are really important skills that they're going to use all throughout school and all throughout their life, right? So once they found the thing, they can drag it to somewhere else. They can drag it to somewhere in Google Drive. And maybe what you would do is have them click on that little triangle next to Google Drive to reveal other locations, and then they can organize it from there. Okay. Let's do this last one and then we'll do some Q&A. The last thing I wanted to talk about is how do kids adjust the volume of their microphone? Maybe you have had a Zoom session where a kid's kind of quiet, or even worse, where they're really loud, right? And the truth is the kids have no idea. They really don't know, right? Because I think if they knew, they would quickly adjust the microphone. So on the Chromebook, if you click on where the clock is, that's going to reveal other settings. So down here in the bottom, I'm going to click on the clock right here. And when I do, you can see there's more settings that are revealed. And right here is the volume. Now, right now I've the sound muted on the Chromebook, but I can adjust that. But right here is this little chevron. And if I click on that, it takes me to an additional menu where I can change the microphone level. So I can make it louder if I need to, or I can make it much quieter, right? But that's how the kids can do it. Again, there's information on how to do this on that that Chromebook document that James stuck in the chat. So that's a good place to go to get that information. Any questions right now? I think I've covered a lot of stuff, but I'm happy to go in some different directions if there's some stuff I haven't covered. You can just shout it out. We've got such a small group. I'll mention another that came up in an earlier session. This is Zoom, okay? You've probably noticed that the kids' experience of Zoom is different than ours, right? One of the reasons for that is, of course, they're on a Chromebook, a different operating system, and also the Zoom app on the Chromebook is different than the one that runs on our Windows desktop, than the one that would run on a Mac. It's totally different. It's so different that the updates come at different times. So with the Chromebook version, we had an update in early September. We didn't have another update until early December. And then I think since then in January, February, I think we've gotten one or two more updates. It's totally different than what we've experienced on the Windows side. So that's a challenge, right? In addition, because the Chromebooks are just not very powerful computers, and Zoom actually uses a lot of resources, that also creates some problems for us. So we're aware of just how frustrating it can be working with students over Zoom, right? Um, a common problem that people often ask about is sometimes students report that they just see a black screen, or maybe at your end, you're only seeing a black screen, a white screen, or sometimes a gray screen, right? If we had the definitive answer, please know we would be communicating that regularly. Unfortunately, we don't know what to do to solve that problem. I can share one thing that other teachers have reported helps sometimes. You can have the students toggle between the speaker view and the gallery view. So just click on that to toggle it. I've sometimes heard teachers say having a student turn their camera off and on can help. And then another one that someone mentioned earlier today is having the students log out of Zoom and log back in. So um, maybe you'll get lucky and maybe one of those will work. It is really frustrating when it happens, and it's frustrating to us as coaches that we can't help people solve some of these issues, or sometimes we luck out and it seems to work. But yeah, Zoom is really, we rely on it, but it's very frustrating to work with, you know.
And oh, Brian,
Yeah.
Marissa asked also just about Zoom
Oh,
updates for students. So just we wanted
oh,
to add they can't really check for updates. It's like they're updating Google Chrome will
yeah.
update their Zoom app. Maybe we're kind of it dependent on when Zoom puts out those updates, which is one of the
Right.
problems. One other thing I posted, I'll just say before this,
Mhm.
is I posted the Chromebook simulator. You saw that link. It's just it can be a useful tool. There are a lot of great resources. Brian put a lot of resources on our website, but this is maintained by Google. And so, it'll just likely have a few other things if you can't find what you're looking for on our site, or if you want to give students something they can actually click through, that Chromebook simulator could be useful as well.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you, James. I
I
didn't even
forgot that
think.
in the morning, but I put it in
Yeah.
the chat.
Maybe we should even put that in the Chromebook manual.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe not. Maybe that's for a teacher resource. I'm gonna paste these slides just in case there are a couple of resources in there. I'll call out a couple in just a second. But here's the link to these slides. So let me just share those slides one more time. Um, okay. So yeah, we covered all of this stuff. This last link right here, the Chromebook support and tools, that was that website that I was showing you, and specifically, it's the section called Chromebook support and tools, right? So it's where you can go to direct kids if they need help with troubleshooting, and also where you can direct kids if they want to know more about how to use their Chromebook. Um, this last page, though, you might be interested in. So here's the staff resource site where we often will direct you if you reach out with a question about something. We'll often say, "Hey, there's this resource here." Here's the family resource site. So that's one you can share. Those are links you can share with students and families because they can access that. And then this one is just maybe it's helpful. It's information about digital citizenship and also strategies about screen time. That's something that you might consider sharing with families. It's got resources that could be really helpful to them. Any any other?
I, I
Oh
was
yeah,
gonna
go
add
ahead.
one thing. Someone in the chat, Maria mentioned like may happen to the same kids over and over. I think the Zoom issue, I think is probably what you're talking about. And yeah, that can be really frustrating. We understand it, and it is for us too. I think the Brian has been talking about our student resources site. There's also these like Chromebook troubleshooting steps. Um, Kind of goes into a little more detail even. But these are kind of the things which technology the technology support desk could help your students do this. I want to say clearly, like we're not just expecting teachers to do all of this with students, but
No.
these are the things that they might try to go through to see if it resolves the problem with Zoom. Because I think sometimes we don't even know how individual account settings are affecting apps like Zoom. And so we try all these things. And maybe it will work and maybe it won't. Ultimately, they might just decide to switch out the student Chromebook too. So
Right.
yeah.
There's just so much. It could be the hardware, right? It could be the computer itself. It could be the internet connection, right? It could be the Chrome app. There's a lot of things that it's complicated, isn't it? Um, but yeah, this is yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to your tech coach when you need help with this stuff. And we can certainly direct you to relevant resources when you do. But this at the very bottom of this tech troubleshooting is information about, oh gosh, did I just go past it? Here we go. Um, where is it, James? Oh, here we go. Yeah, they've got these new, this was newer, where students can go log into a Zoom meeting and they'll stay in the waiting room until there is a tech available to meet with them. And that could be helpful. The challenge is if a family has a crummy internet connection, that's not really an option for them, right? And in that case, they could certainly email and try the phone number here, right? But that's something you can share with families when they're having really weird issues and you haven't been able to sort it out. Yeah, that would be another good place to go.